I'm Brian. I'm here to present some negative stock issues for the argument. First of all, our workability argument is that legalizing physician-assisted suicide will bring power to doctors to decide who lives and dies. According to Peter Rasmussen of AhmedNews.com, he says that several lethal prescriptions, 75% of patients who come to him regarding assisted suicide are people that he's never seen before. More disturbingly, he admits that some of these consultants have occurred during a telephone conversation. Now, the attending physician to the patient means that the physician has primary responsibility for the care of that patient and treatment of the patient's terminal disease. Physicians can become attending for patients they have never treated solely for the purpose of prescribing legal drugs. Also, who are we to say that the doctors, health insurance companies, and health services are going to comply with any regulations put on for assisted suicide? Society can safely put the hands in physicians to power directly and deliberately take life, but this threatens a chapter to a human history of giving one person the liberty to take the life of another. Instead of changing the medicine that generates the problem of an intolerable death, allowing physicians to kill or provide the means to take one's life simply treats the symptoms, all while reinforcing us into a deeper ideology of control. As stated before, this law is a direct violation of the Hippocratic Oath that says, "I will give no deadly medicine to anyone if asked, nor suggest any counsel." Assisting in suicides would be a direct violation of that oath, and it would lead to a weakening in doctor-patient trust. Their claim brings up the opportunity for someone to purposely end their life, which devalues that meaning of life. In this country, human life means something. According to BalancePolitics.org, when 3,000 people died in the 9/11 attacks, donations poured in from all over the country, all over the world. In other countries around the world, life isn't so sacred. Western society is elevated because of the value that we put on each and every life. To end out on a life because it's not convenient or it's too expensive demeans that value. Human life is more than just a gathering of cells. Now, insurance companies may be putting pressure on doctors to avoid heroic measures and recommend the assisted suicide procedure. They have the power to make, health insurances have the power to make the pricing on the procedures, and legalizing it would invite another set of procedures as to when life can actually be taken. The incentive to save money by denying treatment is already a significant danger. It would be far greater if suicide was legal. HMOs and managed care bureaucrats are already overruling doctor treatment decisions, sometimes hastening patients' death. Now, the cost of lethal medication generally used for assisted suicide is about $35 to $50, far cheaper than the cost of treatment for long-term medication. We argue that the value of life is most important, and legalizing assisted suicide loses the meaning of that value. As quoted by the Pope, "A man, even if seriously sick or prevented in the exercise of his higher functions, is and will always be a man. He will never be a vegetable or an animal. The intrinsic value of personal dignity of every human being does not change depending on their circumstances." We should never get to a point where we spend more time looking for a way out of life than for a way to sustain life. Some indirect effects, if this policy were to go through, is that doctors and families may be prompted to give up on recovery much too early. If a patient is told if he has about 6 months to live, he may decide to end things before it starts getting worse. This denies the chance for recovery or the possibility of medical advancement. And we must remember that miracle cures and recoveries can occur. Once the principle of assisted suicide, once the principle is established as a legal right, it will be extremely difficult to, or impossible to argue that the application of that right should be limited to a relatively small group of terminal patients, and not allow this option for chronically ill and disabled to have unbearable suffering. Congress and other courts are also in favor of keeping assisted suicide illegal. An appellate court in California ruled that Elizabeth Bouvier, this is according to Latanya Taylor of Hawaii Kills Assisted Suicide Bill, it ruled that Elizabeth Bouvier, a cerebral palsy victim, had an absolute right to refuse a life-sustaining feeding tube as a part of her privacy rights under the U.S. Constitution. This decision displays the patient's right to refuse treatment, negating the need for assisted suicide. And we must remember that medical errors do exist. According to the Journal of American Medical Association, it reports that medical errors may be the third leading cause of death in the United States at 225,000 per year. Half are medical mistakes, including 2,000 deaths per year of unnecessary surgeries, and 7,000 deaths a year are from medication errors in hospitals.